All right, Song of Solomon, chapter 3. Let's call this one Solomon's Litter, in this chapter that ends with what my subject heading begins, roughly verse 6, with as Solomon's wedding. But it doesn't necessarily say that this is Solomon's wedding, even though it literally ends the chapter in verse 11, talking about the day of his wedding. However, I'll take their word for it. It seems like it's that kind of occasion, as the mighty men assembled around Solomon are described as Solomon's litter, and they are assembled for what seems to be a special occasion, quite possibly his wedding. In this chapter that doesn't seem to start out so joyous, this time it actually begins with the woman, her, actually talking about the way in which she woke up hoping to see Solomon but could not find him where she expected him. And so it starts off with her search for Solomon, her apparent desperation, only to finally find him, and describe the way in which she refuses to let him go. Helping us to understand, as we mentioned in chapter 2, the way she goes beyond what seems to be basic affection for Solomon to talk about 4 times, verse 1, him whom my soul loves, which she'll say in verse 2 again, the way in which she seeks him whom her soul loves. Verse 3 again, saying again as she searches for him, have you seen him whom my soul loves? And in verse 4, she'll say, scarcely had I passed them when I found him whom my soul loves. And so as that introduces what seems to be the wedding ceremony for Solomon, what we get a chance to see is the way in which this woman, who's described as experiencing what seems to be difficult times that probably fashioned her character to match her beauty, is now presenting herself to Solomon. A king who we saw in chapter 2 is offering her more than the encouragements that come through compliments, but he has offered her the stability of the engagement that now seems to be coming full circle in chapter 3, where he is offering her the security that comes with Solomon's litter. And if you know the history of the mighty men, he was not the only one to have mighty men assembled around him, understanding that the word, as we studied the history books up to the wisdom literature, described the way in which his father David had renowned mighty men surrounding him. But the thing to also notice is they weren't the only kings to assemble mighty men around them. Saul, when he was establishing his kingdom, collected seemingly every mighty man he could find for his army. The difference quite possibly being that Saul assembled mighty men around him only to lead them into defeat in battle because his character as a king was lacking. Understanding that Saul's character as king might have just wasted the talents of those mighty men, understanding that many of them ended up dying in battle with him. The distinction between the mighty men of Saul and the mighty men that offer the security that Solomon is potentially presenting to his bride is the fact that Solomon is surrounding his bride with mighty men who are fighting under God's blessing. And so the security that Solomon seems to be offering his bride goes beyond the strength of the men protecting them to the strength of Solomon's relationship with God.